Okay, Marcus, thanks for this. Hang on, just gonna move that. Let's just skim through this. This is an example of a classical Western film. John, I would say something along the lines of you're looking at a poster of one of the most famous Westerns, directed by John Ford, known as the father of the Western. The Western is a genre. I don't think it defines the American film industry, because is a genre at the very center of the American film industry. Most popular then, that's fine. Many of these films are a nostalgic eulogy to the latter half of the 19th century. 19th should have corrected to that. And century needs a capital C. And it's not really a view, is it? A representation of the vast landscape, human and geographical, of the American Old West. However, in the mid-20th century, with advances in science and technology, the Western to some extent became eclipsed by the science fiction genre. Now, if you're talking about the 1950s, then you need to go back there and have an image from there. So I would say go for Forbidden Planet. This is a poster for Forbidden Planet, a reworking of Shakespeare's The Tempest, a very successful film in 1950. Can't remember when it was. Let's have a look, shall we? Oh, you just get the shop. 1956. Okay, so there's your poster, something like that. Very successful. That's the kind of film that was eclipsing. In this essay, in this presentation, I will explore how these genres, which in many ways seem worlds apart, in fact share many common tropes. Okay. Seem to be defended. I think you mean the untamed frontier, don't you? I mean, I would say that I would say exploration but exploration and the unknown frontier, and here I would say the need for law and order, and I would do colon and in inverted commas put the Wild West. Now here then I would give some more examples of Westerns. I just think to show that you know what you're talking about. So an example of the first, if you're talking about the Unnamed Frontier, I can't off the top of my head think of, you need to find an old Western, 1930s. Look at John Ford's work, where it is about that. Wagon Train, for example, I think, where it's about people traveling across, maybe Wagon Train. And on Law and Order, I would definitely say High Noon, which we looked at. So here, then, I would use the quote that I've given you from Roddenberry, Gene Roddenberry, saying the original intention was for Star Trek was that it was a wagon train in space. Okay. Yeah, this is all fine. YouTube has two capitals. There's a capital Y and a capital T. And your items in, you need to use square brackets. It's just the code. Okay, to show that you're not using brackets within the article. Oh, okay, so you got Wagon Train to the Stars. Maybe make that clear that Roddenberry has said that. Right, give us images from those and say, it's a bit repetitious here. No, okay, it's fine. Give us stills from those. And then I would talk about, you see, this is where I would bring in, Outland, you know, even if it's not one of your focus films, you know, you would say a perfect correspondent to the idea. A film, The Question of Law and Order in Space, would be films such as Blade Runner and Outland with Sean Connery, which is an almost direct remake of High Noon. Okay, I just think you say there, even though they're not your focus films. Right, now, this is not the American Revolution. The American Revolution is the fight between the American settlers and the British, who were overtaxing them. This is the Boston Tea Party and American independence, 1776. What you're talking about is something along the lines of well, I don't know if you go as far as to say genocide, but you certainly talk about the struggle between settlers and Native Americans. Hang on a sec, I'm just pausing. Wait a sec, Amy. Yeah, so you might want to quote from, have a look at this book by Dee Brown called Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee. And you probably get it's an amazing book. You can probably get a quotation from him about what he calls I don't quite know what he calls it. I think he's a basketball player as well. So he calls it American expansionism.